Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Carnivore Cast YouTube channel. I'm Scott Myslinski. I'm the host of the Carnivore Cast, podcast all about the carnivore diet and lifestyle. And today we're talking about grass-fed versus grass-finished meat and what is the difference and what you need to know on a carnivore diet. First of all, to get started, thank you for watching this video. If you find this content helpful, or you want to learn more, or you're just feeling in a generous mood, please give me a like, subscribe to the channel, and feel free to share it with friends as well. So what is grain versus grass-fed and finished? People hear these terms all the time. They think, oh, I know that grass-fed is better for you. I don't know why. No, I think it might be better for the environment. Let's talk about what these terms mean. So first, defining grain versus grass-fed and finished. All cattle that are raised in the US and most of the world spend about 80 to 90% of their life on pasture, growing up outside on a pasture eating grass. So they are all technically grass-fed. So when you hear the term grain-fed versus grass-fed, that's a bit of a misnomer. All cattle are grass-fed by nature. How they're finished, meaning how they're fed for the last 10 to 20% of their life, is different. In a conventional feeding operation, some of these mass feeding operations where they finish cattle on different forms of grains, soy, wheat, corn, etc., or they finish them on grass, meaning they continue to feed them grass for the last part of their life. So really what we care about is grain versus grass finishing, not grain versus grass fed. The other thing to know about these terms is that labels lie. Grass-fed is not and grass-finished is not a label that's regulated by any body. There's no one checking, going around policing farms saying, are you truly grass-fed? So anyone can really put grass-fed on their label. And when you buy in a grocery store and it just says grass-fed, that very likely may not be true. So just know that when you're getting into it. Now let's talk about different aspects of grain versus grass-fed. One I mentioned right from the start is the nutritional difference. So actually, when you look at grain versus grass-fed, one thing people claim is that grass-finished is a lot higher in nutrients and has a better omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. Now, stepping back, the nutritional difference is actually quite minimal. There is a slightly more favorable, especially when you look at percentages, omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acid ratio in grass-finished beef. And there are more vitamins and minerals in grass-finished beef. In general, on the whole, on average, again, it varies from operation to operation. But when you look at that in the context of your broader diet, it's really negligible. So what I mean by that is if you have pork once a week, or if you have chicken once a week, or if you have salmon once a week, that difference in omega-6 fatty acids from that one food is enough to wipe out the total difference from if you were to eat all of your meat for the rest of the week from grass-finished or grain-finished cow. You could eat grass-finished all week long, and then you have pork once, versus you have grain-finished beef all week long, and you don't have that pork, and you'd be getting a worse omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, quote-unquote worse, by doing the first instance where you eat grass-finished all week long and have pork once. So really, the nutritional difference on a percent basis looks large, but it's quite minimal. So I wouldn't worry about that, and there haven't been any studies in humans feeding them grain versus grass-finished beef and showing any difference. So that's one. That's nutrition. Next, onto sustainability. The sustainability differences, grass finishing animals may be better for the environment. It may be more sustainable, particularly regenerative agriculture. And I'd encourage folks to check out resources such as Alan Savory and the Savory Institute, or the Strong Sisters, the Armstrong Sisters. They have a lot of great information on this, as well as Diana Rogers and her new film on this topic. But really, a lot of the sustainability differences are actually kind of controversial. One thing about grass finishing animals is it takes much, much longer. You can't fatten them up as quickly. So those animals will need to live a lot longer and therefore will consume more resources and will theoretically produce more waste. Versus grass finishing, you can fatten the cow up, slaughter it, and you're done. So I'd say overall, from a sustainability standpoint, grass finishing is probably better, but it's a controversial topic. My overall practical takeaway is buy what you like and what tastes good to you and what you can afford. A lot of people find, and I personally find, I prefer the taste of grain finished meat, particularly, one thing that isn't great about grass finishing animals is they don't get as fat. So you're really missing out on a lot of the fat, and particularly if you're eating leaner cuts. But even if you're eating ribeyes and New York strips, they can be really, really lean when they're grass finished. And we need that fat for energy, as I've talked about in previous videos and a lot of my guests talk about on the podcast. We need that fat for energy on the carnivore diet because we're not getting as much from carbs. So eat what tastes good to you and what you can afford. A lot of people can't afford grass-finished beef. It's much more expensive in many cases, particularly if you're trying to get a lot of steaks in, which I recommend. The other practical tip is just get to know your food source or buy local. So even if it's you shop in a grocery store, you get to know your butcher, talk to your butcher. This can have a lot of benefits, just getting closer to where your meat comes from, and understanding it. And oftentimes they'll throw in freebies. These are people too. They're real people, and they want to get to know their customers. And if possible, get to know your farmer. Go visit a farm. Go pick up meat from a farm. Join a meat share, where you can get great cuts every month. And you can kind of set up preferences and try different things and help contribute that way. Or go buy a quarter cow, half cow. That really helps local farmers out and takes some of the power away from these giant monopolistic food corporations like Dyson, who are theoretically moving towards plant-based or lab-grown meat. So we want to support our local farmers and ranchers when we can, and I think that's a really noble thing to do. One resource to find your local farmers where you can get local meat, buying eggs, quarter cow, half cow, etc., is eatwild.com. So I'd really encourage you to check that out. So this has been kind of a little mini synthesis of my thoughts on grain versus grass-fed and finished meat. I hope you found it helpful. I hope World Carnivore Month is going great for you. I've got my Mark Bell steak t-shirt on. And please like the video, subscribe. Let me know in the comments section, do you eat mostly grass or grain-finished meat? What do you prefer? What do you like? What do you advise for people? And check me out on social media, Carnivore Cast. Check out the podcast. Love hearing from folks, so feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram or somewhere else. And until next time, keep it carnivore.